I'm Connor Wold, and welcome back to the final episode of the old Oscar Countdown nominations portion. Don't worry, this won't be the final episode. Once the Oscar nominations are going to be coming out, I'm going to predict those and predict who I think is going to win the Oscar. But as of right now, this sort of long, multiple-month journey has come to an end, and we're going to be predicting, or I guess I'm going to be predicting, what I think is going to get nominated for the 2019 Oscar season. This is recorded the day you're going to be watching this, which was hopefully Sunday. It's a Sunday morning. So I have seen the PGA results. Pretty much all the big things they're going to tell us before going to Oscar nominations, I think, have been said. It does affect it slightly, my predictions, but for the most part, they've stayed the same. I'm going to be going through all 24 categories and predicting each and every single one, including the shorts. And I have a little bit of stuff on there, not a lot, because they are the shorts and there's not a lot of information on them, but I will go doing sort of a brief overview. If you want more of an in-depth analysis, you can maybe look at some of my videos which talk about them a little more in depth, where my predictions have changed a lot, but still all of them are same. But I still go through them now, and let's go with the first category. I'm not going to leave you guys waiting, which for me is going to be Best Picture. The frontrunner I have right now, so I guess essentially the order of how you will be seeing them on the screen. The first will be my most likely, and then the last will be the least likely. Right now here I have 10 nominations. I only think there's going to be 8, so the first 8 you see I think are going to get nominated. With Roma still being the front runner, I know a lot of people think, with PGAs, they have a great track record. They use a preferential ballot voting system, which is similar for the Oscars, but don't forget, it wasn't too long ago that La La Land and Big Short won PGAs, which actually did not win for Best Picture, whereas, something like last year, The Shape of Water won, so you never know. But right now I still have Roma up in front because I think that it sort of fits the Academy's message of going more of even an art house film with a little bit of a message. And I think it's a movie that people respect, where Green Book, I think, because this PGA win, could have even more backlash. That being said, I still have Green Book as the number 2 because it could definitely win. I mean, we've seen this scenario before. Best Supporting Actor win from Mahershala, Best Screenplay win for Green Book, which is what I think I'm predicting it right now, and then Best Picture win. That's sort of a traditional Oscar race, but the Oscars are becoming less and less traditional. It all depends on the nominations. For example, does Peter Farrelly get in for director? Does Yalitza Aparicio get in for Roma? I think that's really crucial. Does Green Book get in for editing? There's a lot of these sort of precursors that I still have to keep an eye on, and we still have to keep an eye on before we jump to conclusions. Oh, Green Book's now the winner. Oh, Roma's now the winner. Oh, Star is Born's not the winner. We don't know yet, because if something like Star is Born wins SAG, that could change the race as well. So yeah, Roma and then Green Book and A Star is Born. Still, a contender because it's been getting in at everything. It's been doing very well at the guilds. It's going to get nominated. BlacKkKlansman I have pretty high up because I think there could be momentum for that film, especially from sort of the American side, especially how well it did at BAFTAs. Plus, I think surprises with, say, John David Washington gets in, Adam Driver gets in. Now you're getting a lot of acting support. You could get a couple technical nominations with editing and score. Now you're looking at a real strong Best Picture contender, especially if someone like Spike wins at DGAs. And then Vice, similar situation where Adam McKay's got in a DGA, and the actors, and even possibly Sam Rockwell for Best Supporting Actor. The sort of momentum has been building for this movie, and I think that it's a movie that people like, and it's definitely a love or hate movie, but that could, with the sort of wide open races here, could prevail. The Favorite has fallen a bit in my estimations, but I still don't want to forget that this is a movie that was very well respected at BAFTA. It could very well win BAFTA. It's got all the acting support. It's got the technical support. It's a very strong movie in that sense. So that thing is going to get nominated. The Black Panther has fallen because of its sort of disappointment at the guilds, but it's still getting in a lot of these nominations. It's doing well critically in terms of Critics' Choice Awards and other critics' awards. So I think it could be a stronger contender if someone like Ryan Coogler or Michael B. Jordan gets in for the respective categories. But I still think that it's far down low on this list because it may surprise with some misses of some guilds and no acting nomination and no directing nomination. I mean, that could really hurt its Best Picture chances. But it could win SAG and sort of change the race. Bohemian Rhapsody, this has sort of been the late surprise surge with the win at the Globes. Its nomination at PGA and at SAG with PGA, and the Golden Globes, and its nomination as for SAG Ensemble. Rami Malek being possibly a frontrunner for Best Actor. I think this one sneaks in and actually gets a couple technical categories, things like costumes and whatnot. You'll be seeing that maybe a little later. Could surprise for something like editing as well. If Beale Street Could Talk, this is a movie that definitely has fallen Regina King is the sort of lead frontrunner of that movie, has been falling, especially in industry awards, for BAFTA and for SAG, which was very surprising. Didn't get in for Best Film Ensemble. Barry Jenkins hasn't been doing very well around the board. Is going to get in for Best Adapted Screenplay, but I could see it potentially missing this for Best Picture. And then First Man, just because I was actually going through my predictions, and at one point I had 8 nominations for First Man without a Best Picture nomination, and I just don't think that would line up. If they, only one film, which is Carol, which had 6 nominations, got 6 nominations and no Best Picture nomination. If you get that many nominations, you will eventually get a Best Picture nomination. So if right now I only have it in 6, which ties Carol, but if it's getting all these nominations, it very well could get a Best Picture, because it still may have Claire Foy for Best Supporting Actress and a bunch of tech categories. It could sneak in there as one of the last slots. And then get some honorable mentions. You say Mary Poppins Returns or Crazy Rich Asians or A Quiet Place, but I think maybe those have just less buzz around them and less sort of, Crazy Rich Asians may get Best Picture, maybe one other nomination, 2 for maybe Michelle Yeoh. I think a movie like First Man just has more chances across the board in terms of technically, and therefore more nominations, likelihood of getting for Best Picture. Okay, Best Actor. My lead right now is Rami Malek for Bohemian Rhapsody. I think he will win the SAG. I think a lot of it determines if whoever wins the SAG, because say Christian Bale wins SAG, and then I could very well see him winning BAFTAs, and then Critics' Choice. He's sort of be the sweep, sort of the Gary Oldman of this year, we'll say. But I think the Bohemian Rhapsody love has to go somewhere, and I think it's going to go for Rami Malek as this transformative performance as Freddie Mercury. And then, like I said, Christian Bale is my number 2. I could see his path. It's definitely a really tight race. I mean, this Best Actor race is really tight. I think any of these guys can really win. And even sort of, there's a couple guys I knocked off that definitely could even get nominated too. But then Bradley Cooper for A Star Is Born, he was the front runner. He has fallen a few slots in my mind just because of the miss of the Globes, which I thought was a slam dunk. His film overall sort of struggling. We saw that with the BAFTA, and even sort of disappointment at Critics' Choice. I just think that even though he delivers an amazing performance, I still think he's going to get in, but his chances for winning are a little lower, unless he maybe pulls up an upset and something like SAG. Viggo Mortensen for Green Book. This is another transformative performance in a film they obviously like. Viggo Mortensen's a person they well respect. He's been getting in everywhere. I think these top 4 are pretty good as locks. And then the 5th slot, sort of the one that's up in the air, I'm going with John David Washington for BlacKkKlansman, because I do believe in the support of BlacKkKlansman, and he has been getting in at all the respective award shows. He has missed a couple. There's potential spoilers, something like Ethan Hawke for First Reformed, or Robert Redford for Old Man and the Gun, potentially even Willem Dafoe for At Eternity's Gate. There could be see some sort of split in that way, but I think the fact that John David Washington is in a Best Picture contender maybe will put him over the edge if they really like this film the way I think they do like this film. And he's also been sort of doing the press and whatnot. Best Actress, my favorite right now is Glenn Close for The Wife. I think this is sort of a Julianne Moore and Still Alice scenario. This is her year. I think she's going to win it. I think this is going to be the only nomination from the film. And I think that, that tie of Critics' Choice really should have been Lady Gaga's, but she sort of had a late minute surge, was sort of my theory. So Glenn wins Critics' Choice. She's probably going to win SAG. You don't want to sort of rule out a lot of these acting races because SAG is such an important thing, but even on the win at the Globes, where she had that standing ovation speech, I mean, the Globes don't really have as much of an effect as we think maybe, but what it does have an effect is of the speeches and of the televised nature of the awards, and I think that televised speech was amazing for Glenn, and I just want her to see her speak more. I think Glenn's going to win this year. She's definitely going to get nominated, along with Lady Gaga for A Star Is Born. She's always been that 1 or 2 front-runner contender. She's been getting in at all these acting award shows and winning, for something like Critics' Choice. So we don't want to knock Lady Gaga out of the way. She's definitely going to get in. And another movie, Olivia Colman for The Favorite. She's sort of seen the lead of those 3 actresses, and I think that she's an actress that has sort of more of a fresh face in the industry, but really well liked. She had a charming speech at the Globes when she won there. She also won a Critics' Choice for Best Comedy Actress as well. So she's sort of seen as the leader, maybe in the comedy side, in a movie that's very well liked and in a very sort of amazing, sort of flamboyant performance. If you've seen the trailer, that's all I'm going to say. But very outgoing and really sort of likable person, I think, in the movie, and very funny, and I think that support will sort of carry her through the nomination. Melissa McCarthy for Can You Ever Forgive Me? I think the film, unfortunately, has sort of lost a lot of steam, but I still think in the acting races, especially with the dialogue as well, it sort of helps Melissa McCarthy out. This is someone, they've nominated before for Bridesmaids, so they're not sort of opposed to her. They want to nominate her, and her sort of amazing turn as Lee Israel, a real-life person in this sort of dramatic comedy biography, really well done. And I think that she's been getting in everywhere, not necessarily winning anything, but she's been consistently getting in. So I think the support with the movie is big enough, and the support for her especially is big enough. I think she's going to get in for the win. Or to get in for nomination, excuse me. And then my final spot here, I was sort of mulling over. I don't, yes or no, I don't know. I finally went with Emily Blunt for Mary Poppins Returns. I'm not super confident in it because I think Yalitza Aparicio for Roma is a very good contender because of the strength of the Roma, and that's sort of where I'm conflicted. Emily Blunt got in for Best Lead Actress and got in for Best Supporting Actress at SAG. So this is an actress they clearly like at SAG. This is something they clearly appreciate. However, Mary Poppins Returns has been falling. It didn't do very well at the Globes, the way we thought it could, which is sort of, its arena. Even at BAFTA, it surprisingly did not that well. Viola Davis for Widows got in, which is also a potential spoiler. Toni Collette for Hereditary, I kind of hope gets in, because I was a fan of that movie and a fan of her performance. But I think for the love of Emily Blunt at SAG's pushed me over the edge, although the strength of Roma could put the Elite Separate over the edge and maybe Emily Blunt to the curb, but I still think the Academy and sort of the acting branch in particular really loves Emily Blunt. Best Supporting Actor, I think this is close to a lock in terms of win, but that will be for Mahershala Ali for Green Book. The support of the film with the PGA win and the Globe win has really been strong. This is sort of a scenario where when the Academy really likes an actor, they want to, reward them. We've seen this over and over again with, Sam Rockwell could get a potential nomination because he just won. Emma Stone's going to get a nomination. She just won 2 years ago. In terms of winners, Christoph Waltz recently won a couple of years in a row. So we see these things where the Oscars really like an actor. They get put in these prestige sort of movies. They get nominated. Sometimes they even win. And I think Mahershala Ali for Green Book is really powerful, and he has that speech, and he's sort of the obvious candidate, but he has an amazing performance, and I think he's in for a lock and potentially a lock for a win. My next pick here is Richard E. Grant for Can You Ever Forgive Me? He could pull up a surprise at SAG because he's very much the dialogue is so crisp and amazing, and he takes this sort of fragrant kind of character and really makes him alive and sort of this bad guy, but sort of makes him very charming with his way of words and his manner, and he does an amazing job sort of transforming as this character that's skeezy but still incredibly charming and very likable. And then Adam Driver, BlacKkKlansman. I was really super into the idea that he's going to get nominated, but he is a well-respected actor. He's been working with all these amazing directors recently. He's had an amazing sort of stretch, and I think that he's been getting in actually at every award show, where someone like Sam Elliott misses, for example. Adam Driver's been getting in and surprising and getting in at BAFTAs and things like this. So he's a well-respected actor, and I think he's going to get in for sure. And then Timothée Chalamet for Beautiful Boy. This is another thing where Beautiful Boy, this is going to be its only nomination most likely. It could surprise, but I think just people weren't sort of keen to how the story was told. And then so that hurts chances, but Timothée still has still has that Call Me By Your Name sort of buzz from last year. I think has been nominated at all these award shows still. I thought he may slip. He was going to be the front runner, but he's still been nominated for sort of a transformative and an amazing performance. And then I go with Sam Elliott here for Star Is Born. He's been missing in a couple places, and the Star Is Born is definitely falling. I could see a surge for Sam Rockwell for Vice. I just think that he has sort of been in the conversation enough that people still think he's potentially even a contender, that he will sneak in. But won't be surprised if someone like Sam Rockwell for Vice gets in, or if Michael B. Jordan for Black Panther. Okay, let's move into the next picks, which are Best Supporting Actress. Alright, so Best Supporting Actress, my first pick is still going to be Regina King for If Beale Street Could Talk. The movie has fallen. Her chances have definitely fallen because she didn't get it at BAFTA, she didn't get it at SAG. This could be a sort of a Sylvester Stallone scenario, but don't forget, this is Regina King. She's an awards winner. She won 3 out of the 4 in terms of the Emmy side, if you're into that. She's a well-respected, well-liked, charismatic actress. The room was sort of alive when she won a Critics' Choice, when she won a Globes. This is an actress that when she's nominated, people like and want to give her an award. Plus, I could see someone like Amy Adams winning SAG and then Rachel Weisz winning BAFTA, sort of confusing the matter. So I still think I'm going to go with Regina King for Beale Street Could Talk as the frontrunner. But speaking of Amy Adams for Weisz, my personal favorite actress, I think she's going to get in. Maybe it's personal bias, but I think that the strength of the film, she's been getting in and everywhere. This is maybe a Glenn Close scenario where she's been nominated. At least this one will be nominated 6 times without a win. This is someone they really like. They've been nominated here year after year, and a very transformative supporting performance as Lynn Chaney, and sort of the Rock's Dick Cheney. A very incredible story and a great job and a great performance by Amy Adams. She's beginning everywhere. She could be a potential winner for SAG. I think she's going to get it in. And then I have Rachel Weisz and Emma Stone from The Favourite. I think Rachel Weisz maybe gets a little more of a preference because she plays more of the supporting roles, the supporting categories like the sort of devious kind of devil-like sort of anti-hero protagonist, and Rachel Weisz maybe plays a little bit more of that, although Emma Stone does too, maybe just with a smile. So they sort of play that both thing. They both, they really love Emma because recently, she won recently for La La Land. They like Rachel Weisz, another Oscar winner. Both of these guys doing an amazing performance in The Favourite, a film they like. They've been getting in everywhere. Even though it's going to be a double nomination, which we don't see that often. Last year with 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, got nominated twice for Sam Rockwell and Woody Harrelson, and we've seen, that hadn't happened until, I think, 20 years or something like that. But then when it did happen, I think that was like 98. And then when it did happen, we continually saw it happening. 99 to 2000, we sort of saw a trend. So I think the trend of nominating 2 people from the same movie is going to continue here with Rachel Weisz and Emma Stone from The Favourite. And my final pick is going to be Claire Foy for First Man. This is, a performance that, First Man has fallen definitely in the above-the-line categories, definitely. But I think, in a way, what it has done well, First Man has done well, is at award shows. It's won at score. It's done very well in the technical guilds. Even something like visual effects, it's done well in a lot of these scenarios. And I think Claire Foy has been sort of the face of the movie for a lot of reasons. And I think people like Claire Foy, and she's been getting nominated. Just when I thought, okay, Claire Foy would be the next one to fall from First Man. Damon Chazelle fell, then Ryan Gosling fell. Claire Foy's next, but I don't think that's going to be the case because I kept on expecting it to happen and it didn't happen, and she kept on getting nominated over and over. Even when someone like Regina King misses, Claire Foy would still get in. So I could see a potential Regina King miss, even though it's number 1. But I think Claire Foy is actually a surprising sort of stable pick. But with potentials being with Michelle Yeoh for Crazy Rich Asians, or Nicole Kidman for Boy Erased, or even Emily Blunt for A Quiet Place. They give her this award here, which I'm sort of scared of. They give A Quiet Place here, and Yalitza gets it from Best Actress. That's how they reward Emily. But I still think there's a horror bias in the Academy, so that may not happen. So I'm confident with my picks right here. Alright, Best Director, I'm going to go with Alfonso Cuarón for Roma. He's still the frontrunner because this is sort of his personal, passionate vision. He did the editing, the producing, the writing, the cinematography, directing. This is one of the most personal films he's ever made. It's such a hands-on, sort of deliberate craft. The craft of the film is so particular. There's so many amazing people respect sort of what he did in the movie. And I think that for overall, the respect for Alfonso Cuarón in the industry is so high that I think he's going to win and for sure get nominated. Spike Lee could surprise with sort of an overdue award for BlacKkKlansman, but I don't think it's as much of a directed movie and sort of a distinct movie. It has that sort of distinct Spike angriness, but it's also very funny and entertaining the way some of Spike's movies aren't. Or just sort of, I guess, a different type of humor, and maybe that's sort of that Jordan Peele influence, but it's maybe not as overtly directed. But I still think he's going to get it in because he's never been nominated before, and could have a chance potentially for DGA if they want to sort of go that route. Bradley Cooper for A Star Is Born was my third pick, just because, I thought he could even potentially win at Globes, but he didn't. They didn't nominate someone like Ben Affleck for Argo, so they could be biased against actor-directors, which is maybe why he's in the middle of the pack, but this is definitely his film. He's been going around talking about how this is his first directorial debut. He's not going around saying he's an actor. He's been going around saying, he's a director, and this is sort of his project that he helped write and produce, and this is really sort of his baby, and I think that this is that sort of view people are looking at him will give him the director nom. And then I have Adam McKay for Vice. This is someone that they've nominated before. They really like. He has a distinctive vision and view. And I think that he got an DGA, which is sort of a sign of my approval. He got it at Globes, I think, so this is someone that he has, even if you don't like the movie, if you don't like the movie, you don't like it, but if you do like it, you really like it. And I think he will get a lot of support for the people that do like it and his sort of unique vision, because with this and The Big Short, I'm starting to see a trend of how he's telling his stories and the way he sort of cuts a lot of things together. And then Yorgos Lanthimos for The Favorite is my final pick. That's just because I think that there's going to be a lot of support technically, and I think this movie people really love, and I think there's a lot of support for this movie. I could go with something like Peter Farrelly for The Green Book. You know, Green Book, that could be a surprise because it won PGAs, but, you know, don't forget something like Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, which was everyone's thought. You know, Martin McDonagh didn't get in for Best Director. So I think in a lot of these years we're seeing these movies where if we want to get nominated, it has to be a movie that's directed, a movie that's obviously directed, and I think Green Book is not obviously directed. It does have sort of an old-fashioned kind of feel to it, but Yorgos Lanthimos for The Favorite has a very distinct, unique style to it. His voice is all over the film, and I think the director branch will really appreciate this. And plus, Peter Farrelly got in instead of Yorgos Lanthimos at the DGAs, but recently the DGAs have been doing very poorly in terms of they've always been missing one. It's been like 4 out of 5 each and every year, so it's not like they're making 5 out of 5 every year. There's always that one surprise. I think this year Peter Farrelly's going to miss out and Yorgos is going to get in. Best Adapted Screenplay. We're going to start off with BlacKkKlansman, just because I think this is, out of all the contenders here, maybe the top for Best Picture. It has a very unique screenplay, a mix of humor and entertaining and thrilling and tense, and sort of adding in that real life moment at the end. Really well done, and just sort of a tight screenplay that I think has great moments to it and great funny lines and really great sort of honest looks and sort of portrayals and asks the right questions, and I think is well respected. And then if Beale Street Could Talk, I think this would be the sort of the film's love of the film. This is adapted from a James Baldwin novel, who was sort of in himself an acclaimed writer, and so is Barry Jenkins. I think he's sort of still respected within the industry, even as a writer. And I think if they won't nominate him for Best Director, they should want to give Barry an award. They'll give him, a nomination here for If Beale Street Could Talk. Then Can You Ever Forgive Me? I mean, this is a writer's writer movie. It's got incredibly sharp dialogue. It's about a writer. If the writers don't nominate this, I'll be surprised. And even though the film has sort of died down in a lot of people's estimations, the screenplay has been getting in at a lot of places. And then I have A Star Is Born for my fourth pick. That's just because I think this is a movie that still has steam, that still has sort of Best Picture contender potential. Plus some of the adapted screenplays I'm not so super confident in, sort of the honorable mentions. This is a Best Picture winner. This is from the respected screenwriter Eric Roth and Bradley Cooper. So, Eric Roth has been, I think, won before, but he's definitely been nominated a few times. Yes, I think he won for Forrest Gump. He's nominated a few times, so he's someone they respect, and I think his screenplay will get in for sort of reimagining this and putting a spin on the Star Is Born story. And my final pick here went to Black Panther, because we've seen a movie like Logan or whatever get in before. These superhero movies aren't necessarily. It's not like they don't think of it as an adapted a movie. Logan got in because it's adapted based off a comic book. Similarly here, Black Panther based on a comic book. So it's not like they look down on comic books versus novels necessarily. And I think if it's going to get a lot of sort of this technical support and get in for Best Picture, I think this is the year for a superhero movie. I think this is the Black Panther year. I think it's going to get in for Best Adapted Screenplay. And then the potential spoilers could be something like The Death of Stalin, which was sort of really sharp, credible screenplay, but maybe it was forgotten. But Leave No Trace, which has sort of gotten some respect for Thompson McKenzie and Deborah Granick for Best Director. So if they want to sort of give her dues there, they're going to give Leave No Trace in the Best Adapted Screenplay award. And to be honest, I wouldn't be so surprised if it knocks out something like Black Panther, because it has it has very little dialogue and very little writing, and therefore maybe a little more impressive for some people in terms of the structure and how it sort of visually tells its story. But I think overall when people think of screenplays, they think of dialogue and story, and I think the sort of conflicts and themes that the Black Panther explores with isolationism and sort of how that works together, I think that the Black Panther will win and sort of get in for the nomination. Best Original Screenplay, for the first one I went with Roma. Once again, another Alfonso Cuarón sort of piece. He wrote the screenplay as well. There's stories that he had a very detailed screenplay, but he didn't even have it nominated for, he sort of didn't show the people on set the screenplay. He did it for himself. So there's sort of the mystique behind it, but there's also the ability that he's able to do with sort of telling the story in minimal dialogue and sort of these grand sets and these sequences that he's able to pull off that are in the screenplay. I also think Roma's a frontrunner for Best Picture, so I think that's going to get in for Best Original Screenplay. It's also gotten in at, everywhere it needs to be. Green Book, I think, with his PGA win, definitely could be surprised and win this for screenplay. And like I said, supporting actor and picture, that could be sort of its three trio. There's just some controversy with Nick Vallelonga, one of the screenwriters. He they dig up some old tweets, and he sort of tweeted some Trump tweets or whatever. I'm not entirely sure if it's controversy, but there is a little bit of sort of controversy around him and the film, and there's a lot of controversy around the film in general. But I think it's still well liked, and it's still going to get in for its screenplay because it's very funny and very heartfelt and sentimental. And then the third pick here is The Favorite. Just because it wasn't actually eligible for Writers Guild Awards, which could hurt it, but it has been getting in. Maybe not surprisingly, hasn't been winning, even though it has such an amazing, sharp dialogue and very funny. I thought it was the obvious front runner, but now because it's been missing at some places, I'm a little hesitant. So I've put it on a few places, but I still think it's crackling dialogue. It's very original. It's very unique. It has Yorgos sort of stamp on it, but it's very more mainstream in a lot of ways. Because he did work intensely with the screenplay, even though he didn't have a writing credit on it. So I still think for Best Original Screenplay, The Favorite's still going to get in. And then Vice, I think is also going to get in because of sort of, like I said, a unique way of storytelling, very funny kind of unique moments. Adam McKay is a comedy director, and there's some great moments in here. There's some great lines of dialogue, character progressions. I think it's just very funny, witty dialogue and use of the storytelling in a very unique way that I think only Adam McKay could do, and the screenplay shows that. And then my fifth pick here goes to 8th Grade. Really, this could have gone into 8th Grade or First Reformed or A Quiet Place, but really it's 8th Grade or First Reformed for me. And I don't know why I'm going 8th Grade. There hasn't been a lot of precursors. I mean, theoretically, First Reformed for Paul Schrader should get in, but maybe this is just sort of my sentimentality bias. Maybe, I do like 8th Grade slightly more than First Reformed, even though I both really love both those films. I just think 8th Grade fits more of the mold of an original screenplay, and the way it's sort of an honest portrayal, a great coming-of-age film, versus a First Reform that has a well-respected screenwriter, but maybe isn't the new hotness. He's sort of been nominated before. Ethan Hawke is sort of disappointed. I think overall in the chances for First Reform, it's disappointed overall, where 8th Grade has actually sort of stayed around with its globe, sort of Elsie Fisher getting in. And I think 8th Grade just is its originality. We see movies like The Lobster again, we see movies like 20th Century Women. So these sort of sentimental, in a lot of ways, movies that are original and sort of fit that mold. We've never seen sort of a digital coming-of-age story like this before, so I think they'll really respect 8th Grade. Okay, going over to my next category, which is Best Cinematography. Okay, so Best Cinematography, once again, I'm going with Roma as the very first pick. This is, Alfonso Cuarón sort of did this. But well-respected cinematography, Emmanuel Lubezki, or Chivo is what they like to call him. He's been nominated. He's been won 3 times in a row. Revenant, Birdman, Gravity, for Alfonso's last movie. Although, just timing didn't work out, which is why sort of Alfonso shot this movie himself. Although he's been wise in saying, Chivo's imprint is all over this, sort of getting respect from the cinematographers, that it's not just a guy, it's not the director shooting it himself. Like, there is some artistic intent behind it, and there's some really great sort of deep focus shots and long takes, and the end sequence into the water is so beautiful. So I think that the Academy will still respect it, and it got in for the American Society of Cinematographers, which is sort of could be prejudiced against sort of directors who shoot their own movies, but in this case they've made an exception. I think Roma will get in. And then The Favorite is the next one. People could be turned off by this, but I think it's one of those things where I'm following where almost the most cinematography or the most noticeable cinematography gets in. That rule sort of plays a lot for a lot of these Oscar categories. And in this scenario, The Favorite takes this period setting and shoots it in very unique ways. Lots of candlelit scenes, which are very beautiful. Uses fisheye lenses in a lot of ways. Tracking shots. So there's a lot of sort of stuff going on here. Robbie Ryan is the cinematographer, I believe. And this is really sort of a unique job at sort of taking this sort of well-documented, I guess, in film sort of period piece, but sort of shooting in unique ways, in different ways I think people will respect. Cold War is the next pick. This is a movie that wasn't was sort of on the cusp, but after its BAFTA's overperformance, I mean, this is a movie that got nominated for Best Director at BAFTA, got nominated for Best Original Screenplay at BAFTA, Best Film in a non-English language, and Cinematography. Also got nominated for the American Society of Cinematographers. The sort of debate is that will 2 foreign films, black and white, get nominated at the Oscars? Well, I think yes, because this cinematographer has worked with Paweł Pawlikowski before, and then his movie Ida, which won the foreign film in the 2013 or 2014 Oscars, won for Best Foreign Film and also got nominated for cinematography. So this is a black and white French film cinematographer, Polish film cinematographer, excuse me, that's been nominated before for his film for film Ida, and I think this is his new film Cold War will also get nominated for that similar reason, and did it very well at BAFTA and got an ASC, so it's well respected, especially cinematography wise. It has at least that sort of credentials. And then First Man here is from Linus Sandgren, who's a well respected cinematographer, won for La La Land a couple of years ago, and it's a film that has very unique cinematography. Like I said, the blend of 16mm and 35mm versus the IMAX sequences. There's very sort of distinct, noticeable cinematography, which a lot of it's sort of close-up scenes in a lot of ways that makes the movie very emotional. And I think that I could see this one falter and not get in, but its ASC nomination, even in getting it at BAFTA, I believe, sort of assures me that I think it will get nominated. And then A Star Is Born, this is from sort of Matthew Libatique, who is very well respected actually within the industry, has worked with a lot of people, and he's a guy who, you know, really my basis from this personally is Sean Baker, who directed the Florida Project, last year, we sort of got some awards recognition. He posted a letterbox review, which is sort of a movie kind of logging site, we'll say, or an app. And I remember his review specifically because it pointed out, and he's very much technical and knows all the details and appreciates cinematography, and really mentioned as to how A Star Is Born cinematography was very unique, and the way Matthew sort of lit the scene, especially the concert scenes, were sort of, you know, the red sort of concert lights versus sort of the white normal lights, and how you sort of fuse those two in a very unique way to create sort of almost a purpley color. And I think of the film, and almost the entire film is shot in these medium close-up kind of shots the entire way. It's a distinct style, it's recognizable, and I think this is a cinematographer that people respect within the industry, so I think he's going to get in. And then another potential spoiler could be, you know, something like Rachel Morrison from Black Panther. If you don't know, Rachel Morrison got nominated last year for Mudbound. She was the first female cinematographer to ever get nominated. So if they really want to sort of spread that love sort of again and sort of recognize her as an amazing cinematographer, to go from this sort of small indie movie to a big studio film like this, they want to give it to her for especially all those bright colors and amazing set design, how she captures that. But I still think that this is maybe a little more of a prestige movie, and you know, something like A Star Is Born could get in above it just because it has that Best Picture contenderness. Best editing, my first pick is going to be for Vice. This is because it has the most noticeable editing. I was a believer in it, even though it wasn't even going to get nominated. Even wasn't going to get nominated for Best Picture. I thought the editing would get in because of its how it's unique, how it tells a story, how it sort of jumps through multiple decades, and sort of tells that grand story. So there's a lot going on in Vice with sort of recap, you know, actual real life footage. There's a very unique sort of editing style that I've been saying over and over in the video, but I think will also get recognized. A Star Is Born, because, you know, it's a movie that has some problems with editing, yes, but it's still a Best Picture contender, and in this category I'm looking at a lot of the Best Picture contenders, and sort of that rise to The Shallow is so amazing in terms of editing, so I think that's going to get in. Roma, for almost its lack of editing, it's also a Best Picture contender, so I'd be surprised if it doesn't get in, although it could not get in because it's almost lack of editing, but I think its lack of editing is a great way of editing. You know, when you choose to edit is much more important in this film than, say, you know, I don't know, Mission Impossible Fallout, for example. First Man is another film I think it's going to get in because I think Tom Cross is a well-respected editor, and I think that it's very sort of noticeable, and I think this is the non-Best Picture candidate that's going to get in for Best Editing. And then BlacKkKlansman as my final pick. because I think it doesn't have, it has sort of the support of the American branch, and I think it's as much as the Best Picture contenders, I think. Plus it has noticeable editing, the way it sort of intercuts, does a lot of intercutting. I think that's going to get nominated, and then sort of these tense thriller scenes, so that could get in as well. Although this category is all over the place, I could see any of these not getting in. You know, a movie like Bohemian Rhapsody could surprisingly get in. Green Book, you know, if Green Book's a really if Green Book gets an editing nomination, I might immediately put it for Best Picture. And Peter Farrelly could get in for Best Director. I think the editing nomination is super crucial for Green Book, if it really wants to be a Best Picture contender, because we see a lot of the Best Picture contenders. You know, I said of the last 20 years, there's only been one Best Picture winner that wasn't nominated for Best Editing, and that was Birdman, because it had no editing, or at least seemed like it had no editing. It had like 4 or 5 cuts throughout the entire film. So I think if Green Book gets in, that's a huge sign, but just because its lack of editing won't get it in. I could see something like Bohemian Rhapsody, because it's very lively and energetic, get in for editing, but we'll see. Best Costume Design, The Favorite, this is sort of a period piece. This makes sense because a lot of these period pieces get in. Black Panther has a very unique Wakanda world with bright colors and very African traditional almost garbs in a lot of ways. Mary Queen of Scots, similarly to The Favorite, these period pieces are big costume dramas, are called costume dramas because of their amazing costumes, and I think they will recognize the costumes and give it a costume design to win. And Bohemian Rhapsody, because for Freddie Mercury's amazing costumes and all that he does, and really just his unique outfits, and so the parties you're thinking of has great costume design. And then Mary Poppins Returns, because you know, maybe it's a little too traditional, maybe something like Crazy Rich Asians, its support will go in here. I'm thinking that for the next category, but I think for right now, Mary Poppins Returns will sort of get that dual threat of production design and costume design, the same way it did at BAFTAs. And the Art Directors Guild, you know, if that counts. Best Production Design, once again, The Favorite for its great period pieces. It's similar with Black Panther for its unique sort of landscape, even though there was a lot of CGI. That, you know, I think of something like the cliff sequence or, you know, the throne. There's some really tangible elements to the film that are really well done, or even the sort of that club sort of bar scene that's really sort of James Bond-esque, which is really great. And then Mary Poppins Returns, I think, is going to get in for Best Production Design, just because I think it's going to get that dual threat. Plus, it has sort of a story element to the production design. You know, think of the house as very integral to the story. Plus, there's not a lot of CGI. There's actually a lot of sets, with, you know, something like the Triple Light Fantastic pole scene, which is really great. So I think Mary Poppins Returns will get in for Best Production Design. Then I have Roma here, mostly recently because there's been, so, you know, it's got in at the Art Directors Guild, but even there's sort of been buzz about how Alfonso and his team actually built an entire city block that replicated that, and sort of Guillermo del Toro has been talking about that and sort of been spreading that word. So I think that sort of rumor that he actually built an entire city block will really show it. And if Roma gets in categories like this, I think it will show the strength for that movie. And then Crazy Rich Asians, I think, is my wildcard pick to get in because of the amazing mansion and of the amazing sort of Singapore in general has so many unique locations. The wedding scene, for example, is so beautiful. There's so many great iconic moments and sort of scenes from this movie. And I think it's going to be less of a costume design because it's period based, but for production design, for these great amazing sets that they built, you know, these rich great sets, I think they'll appreciate Crazy Rich Asians. And it got in for PGA, it got in for SAG Ensemble. They like this movie. It's got the support's got to go show up somewhere. I'm predicting Best Production Design. Alright, Best Makeup and Hairstyling, Vice, just because of it. This category is really turned into Best Prosthetics, I think, and Vice has sort of the amazing sort of old age makeup that she puts on, you know, Amy Adams, or that they put on Christian Bale, and he's done the same thing at his Golden Globe speech. You know, thank the makeup artist. I think this is a lock for a win and a nomination. Border, which is a Swedish film, and we've seen these Swedish films do very well recently in the makeup category. Do not sort of underestimate this because it's got amazing sort of unique kind of ugly prosthetics, kind of you know, beast. They call it sort of prosthetics, and sort of this ugly guy that sort of finds romance in a lot of ways. And then Stan and Ollie, because of sort of John C. Reilly didn't put on any weight, they put on a lot of sort of prosthetics on him to make him look like that. It was the only one that someone actually noticed to me, like, oh, I saw that trailer and oh my god, the makeup. I think this is one of those movies where you just see the trailer and you go, oh my god, the makeup, versus something like Suspiria where it's not that noticeable. I thought maybe Bohemian Rhapsody because of the teeth, but I just don't think it's enough. This is a film where they don't even care if the movie's good or bad. They're just going to nominate it. I think this could be Stan and Ollie's one surprising nomination. Maybe not surprising because Stand Only is not bad, but I'm just saying in previous years, you know, the Suicide Squad winning something. They're worried about just makeup. So best score, my first pick is going to be First Man, Justin Hurwitz, just because it won at the Golden Globes. It's been doing well sort of overall, and you know, I think First Man does have some technical support. This from Justin Hurwitz. He won a couple years ago for La La Land. He's an up-and-coming Oscar sort of composer. I think people respect him. If Beale Street Could Talk for Nicholas Patel. I think that, you know, once again, another sort of up-and-coming composer, also got on the Globes. I think sort of the grand sort of sweepiness of the film is aided with this sort of amazing sort of melancholic, kind of romantic, very romantic score. And we see something like Phantom Thread get nominated before, which has a similarly romantic score. Olivia Granson for Black Panther, his score for Black Panther, because it has very unique sort of African-infused instruments, you know, talking drum, you know, that sort of plays with T'Challa. It's very sort of symbolic that these leitmotifs that they use are very well done and recognizable. Isle of Dogs for Alexandre Desplat, very Japanese style, infused with sort of Alexandre Desplat style. And I think that he's a well-respected guy who gets nominated all the time. So I think Alexandre Desplat, they just love him so much that I think they're going to nominate him for this. And then Mary Poppins Returns for Mark Shaman, just because I think of the recognition that when people think of musicals, they think of music, and therefore will nominate Mary Poppins for Returns. You know, I could see something like Terence Blanchard's score for BlacKkKlansman get in. That could be maybe an honorable mention. So if that does get in, I think, you know, watch out for BlacKkKlansman, because if it does get into some of these technical categories, it could win for Best Picture. And that shows at least it had some support. Although I just think that's for that one-to-one connection of thinking of a music. You think of a musical, I think they're going to nominate Mary Poppins Returns, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't do a lot of nominations, because in terms of the industry, Mary Poppins Returns has disappointed. No PGA, you know, disappointing at BAFTA. So we'll see, but I think in some of these technical categories, it should get in. Best Original Song, I'm going to go with Shallow from A Star Is Born. This is pretty close to a lock and a win, just because it's the only song that's campaigning from A Star Is Born, and it's the peak moment of the movie. All the Stars from Black Panther, once again, the only song from Black Panther. They didn't go with Pray For Me, they went with this one to campaign for. Kendrick Lamar, they want to serve a celebrity on stage. I think they're going to go with this from a Best Picture nominee. I'll Fight from Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The Shuggan for Best Documentary. Jennifer Hudson has a very powerful, sort of moving song. This fits in with the sort of mold of the Oscar song nominations before, so I think this is going to get in. And then the final two picks, I did stick with Mary Poppins Returns for both The Place Where the Lost Things Go and Triple O Light Fantastic. Like I said just before, I wouldn't be surprised if Mary Poppins Returns doesn't do so well, but maybe this is just covering my bases. You know, I'm not sure if it's going to be either or, because they may want Lin-Manuel Miranda, who would probably perform at the Oscars, over something like The Place Where the Lost Things Go, where Emily Blunt wouldn't. But I wouldn't be surprised if they nominate both, so they can have sort of a great combination performance, and then they can move the show along. But who knows, something like Dolly Parton, I think, is probably the next pick for Girl in the Movies with Dumplin'. I'm just not sure how many people have seen it. Best Sound Editing, first place I went with A Quiet Place, because of this, similar to the musical argument, that when you think of A Quiet Place, the thing you think about is sound, how there is no sound, how it's so quiet, and how they use it to their effect. First Man is another one. Plus, these got the Motion Picture Sound Editors, so MPSE. I believe it is. The Quiet Place got in. So did First Man here, which also did very well at the Cinema Audio Society, which is this first sound mixing. Sorry, I got the two confused, so I just wanted to make sure about that. But I think First Man will do well in these technical categories, and it's sort of action. It is sort of a thriller, and a lot of the action movies do well in this best sound editing category. Black Panther, once again, another action movie that has been doing disappointing at the Guilds, but I still think that the love of the film will push it over the edge, and especially for an action movie that's a Best Picture contender, this makes sense. Roma, just because it actually has been surprising at the Guilds, and I thought this would be a movie that people would forget, and a movie that, not people would forget, but sort of the sound would be something that people forget, because they wouldn't see it in theaters, they wouldn't have that Dolby Atmos, but the sort of appreciation from the Guilds and from the people who are voting for these nominations really liked it, so I think Roma's going to get in for Best Sound Editing. And then my final pick here is going to go Mission Impossible Fallout, just because I think this is a movie that's finally in, you know, the 6th installment, that it's a franchise that people really respect, people really like, and has a great action kind of sound editing. It did well at the MPSE. It's got 3 nominations for, I think, dialogue and ADR, and you know, music and sound effects and Foley. So it got all 3 of those. So I think Mission Impossible Fallout could be sort of the surprise nomination. Best Sound Mixing. Now this is definitely more musical based. Of course, Star is Born in my #1 slot, because the film has been doing not so great overall, so it could sort of maybe not get in for both sound categories, but it should get in for Best Sound Mixing in the way they sort of blend the live singing into the film. Very well done. Similarly with Bohemian Rhapsody, the way they sort of put in Freddie Mercury's voice in there, because they didn't sing it, but sort of the quick music, and people really love Bohemian Rhapsody. And then First Man and A Quiet Place for similar reasons, because I think that they're both signature sort of sound movies, and I think when they will both get in both categories. And same thing with Black Panther, because of the music with the soundtrack and whatnot. I think that I also got the Cinema Audio Society Awards for Fantasy Sci-Fi, and there's not really a fantasy sci-fi movie like this. Well, I guess, I'm not sure. I think First Man, maybe, I don't think First Man fell into the category, so if they want to sort of represent that genre, they want to give it to Black Panther. Best Animated Feature. Remember, this is right now in terms of likelihood of getting nominated. So Incredibles 2, I think Pixar movies have a great track record. I could see a surprise in it not get in, but I think that while it's not the front runner necessarily, I still think that has a good chance, especially when come the Oscars come night, they could pull up a surprise because of people's admiration and love for Pixar in general. Isle of Dogs, this is from Wes Anderson, his last animated film, stop motion animated film. Fantastic Mr. Fox got in, and his last film, Grand Budapest Hotel, got a bunch of nominations, so I'd be surprised if Isle of Dogs doesn't get in here. And then Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the presumed maybe frontrunner right now because of its Golden Globe win. And won something else too recently, which I'm unfortunately forgetting, but it's seemingly the frontrunner, just because of its unique animation, but you never know with Sony Pictures Animation. And then Ralph Breaks the Internet, Disney animation, this should get in as well. People may, not liking it because it's sort of maybe a forgettable movie for a lot of people. I didn't think so. I really enjoyed this movie. I think it will get in. And Mirai, this is from G-Kids. It's a Japanese film, sort of very unique animation style, very different than the other sort of studio, sort of Hollywood American movies, and it's been getting in everywhere. So really these three, the sixth nomination could be something like The Grinch, but according to sort of the Academy standards, or sort of the Academy and what we know about them, they would go less for something like The Grinch and more for something like Mirai, just because, like I said, the G-Kids movies do get nominated quite often. And if you want a little more depth, I already picked these 5 in my animated features video. Best documentary, I went with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, RBG, for the first one here, because it has sort of the political aspect, which they are gearing towards, where a lot of these documentary winners, something like Icarus wins over something like Faces Places because it is political. So I think that will get in. Will She Be My Neighbor, which is more of the sweet, sort of honest, sort of true, which has some sort of political elements to it, will get in. Free Solo, which has, some great, amazing shots, and it's been getting in everywhere, and it's so stunning. And I think the people that do see this will honestly, I just sort of recognize it and understand it and remember it. And then Three Identical Strangers, because of its sort of tense, great nature to it. It's been getting in a lot of places, even including BAFTA, which I thought maybe it wouldn't get in, so it's overperformed in my mind. So I think that will get in. And then the final pick here, I've been struggling because I thought maybe Crime and Punishment. I thought maybe something else, I'm not so sure. It could be something like On Her Shoulders or whatnot, but I do think it's going to be a political documentary. I don't think it's going to be something like Minding the Gap or Shriekers or something like that. I do think it's going to be Hale County This Morning, This Evening, because it sort of follows the lives of African Americans in the States. It has a very sort of overtly political aspect to it, and I think with this category going towards definitely more political films, Hale County This Morning, This Evening could get in. I will say, could get in, because I'm expecting this last lot to go to someone that's maybe a little more, documentary that's a little more political based. Best Visual Effects, my first pick is going to go with Avengers Infinity War, because of Thanos and that amazing CGI character, and it did very well at the VES Awards. Ready Player One similarly has the Oasis, that whole visual effects, world that makes you care for these characters, also did very well at VES. Black Panther did not, but I think the strength of the film will carry it over. Solo, A Star Wars Story, has a character of L337 as its mostly CGI character, but there's a lot of practical effects in it. So there's special effects, there's CGI, but there's also some practical effects. Plus, no Star Wars movie has never been nominated except for Revenge of the Sith. And then my final pick here is maybe just to throw out the win, Christopher Robin. I don't think Welcome to Marwen. I don't think some of these other other movies, Mary Poppins Returns or anything like that. So I went with Christopher Robin just because I think the actual character of Winnie the Pooh draws so much sympathy from that movie, and I think it could be a surprise as sort of the real life blended with animation kind of visual effects style that I think was very well done in that movie, and I think maybe a surprise. All right, in my next category, we'll finish it off with Best Foreign Film. Okay, so foreign film, Roma is my first pick. I don't need to explain why. Best Picture contender, director, all that stuff. Cold War did very well at the BAFTAs. I think that's going to get in because that's the Academy branch. They really like that movie. Shoplifters won the Palme d'Or. There's a lot of connection between the Palme d'Or winner and getting in at Best Foreign Film and sort of the industry respect. Capernaum has a very sort of sympathetic child actor and has been getting in at a lot of these precursors. And Never Look Away because I think it appeals to more of the pretentious side of the Academy and is getting industry awards than say something like Burning or The Guilty. Best Animated Shorts, we're just getting into the shorts now. Bow, which is a Pixar film, which is why that appeared in front of Incredibles 2, which is why I have it at front. Lost and Found, Weekends, Bilby, which is sort of an animated bird film where we see a lot of these sort of animated animal characters do very well. And Age of Sail and sort of Lost and Found and Weekends have sort of a unique, almost, I know Weekends has almost a 2D style of animation, which is different. So I think right now, these are just shorts. I am just sort of guessing a lot of them based on pictures and whatnot. Best Documentary Short, I have Zion, Black Sheep, Woman in the Gulag, My Dead Dad's Porno Tapes, which I think is good in just because, last year was The Highway thing, I think, in a documentary that got nominated, just because I think people just see the name and they go, oh, this is great, and they nominate it. And then Lifeboat as well. And The Woman in the Gulag, just because I think there's actually a lot of female sort of based things. There's another one which is Period is the End Sentence, which is sort of based on women's sort of menstrual strike, I believe, in India. So there are some female sort of documentary shorts here this year, and I think the representation will be Woman of the Gulag. Best Live Action Short, Caroline, which I knew won a prize at Cannes, which I've actually seen, which is very well done and very, very powerful. And Marguerite, Fauve, Mayday, Ikari. I don't know too much about these, but these are my picks because I sort of just picked at random. Personally, I don't know the shorts too well. Sorry about that, but those are sort of my picks. And wow, this has been a long video, over 40 minutes looks like, and I had a blast doing this. I hope you enjoyed all my picks. You can go through and sort of see them. I'll put my picks in the description as well, so you can see them all there if you don't want to hear the explanations. If you stayed this long to see the shorts, there you go. I'm sorry I don't have the most expert analysis on those, just maybe why I didn't cover them overall. I'm already starting to debate myself. I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done Emily Blunt, or maybe I should have done Yalitza, or maybe I should have done Bohemian Rhapsody and editing, and I'm sort of debating in my head, like, why did I do this? But, I'm stuck in here. I want to give you guys the video sort of a little early so you can get those nominations. You can hear my thoughts and before they come out Tuesday morning. I hope you guys enjoy yourselves. Make sure to give it a like. This one took a lot of work and a lot of time. I hope you guys appreciate the episode. Stay tuned for my Oscar reactions video where I'll give my live reactions to it as I'm watching them, and then I'll give subsequently a weekly update kind of video where I talk about what I think is going to win and sort of different categories and whatnot. This should be a lot of fun. I can't wait. I love you guys coming on the journey. Comment below. Let me know some of your picks. That'd be great to sort of compare and have a great film community that I'm trying to create here. That's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and until next time, stay tuned.